Både Baby, ja, både Spachtin mu presentasjovni samegel bikenamat Wikidatas. Hello and welcome to my presentation Sámi Placenames on Wikidata for the Celtic Knot Conference 2020. My name is Harald Søby and I work for Wikimedia in Norway. And for several years now we in Wikimedia Norway have had a project focused on getting more Sámi content to all Wikimedia projects, as well as improving the Northern Sámi Wikipedia in particular. And this is the latest installment in that project. So our project, as you can tell, is about getting more Sámi place names to Wikidata. And it's split into two phases. So the first phase is to get the items onto Wikidata, and the second phase is to get the Lexemes for the place names. And the first most important thing is the SSR, which means it's Norwegian Sentralt Stedsnavnsregister. It means like the central registry of place names, and it's released by the Norwegian Mapping Authority, who we are cooperating with on this project. And I'm going to say SSR quite a lot in this presentation, so bear with me. Just remember that it means like the list of all place names. And the SSR list that you can download is a huge file. It's like 6.8 gigabytes, I think, in an XML file. So the first thing we had to do is like download that and make a script to process it to, only extract all the data that we actually need and are going to use for Wikidata, because there's a lot of metadata in that file that just isn't relevant for Wikidata at all. So we needed to sort of like trim it down to just the essentials to what we need. And then there's the third part of that phase is to reconcile the data, and that is the stage we're at now, and we're just about finishing it now this summer, I hope, this July, I mean. And then we're gonna upload the new data to Wikidata. And in the second phase with the Lexemes, we're going to extract all the names, like the actual place names themselves, and get the conjugations for the names from Gelatekno, which is a department at the University of Tromsø. And then we're going to upload those as Lexemes and then link the items and Lexemes together. Alright, so in the SSR there are 27,963 places with a name in at least one Sámi language or in Kven. Kven is another minority language in Norway, which is very close to Finnish. And it's spoken in, Troms and Finnmark mainly, which is the region of Norway that has the most Sámi speakers as well. And if you do the maths from this table, you will notice that it doesn't really add up, but that's because a lot of places have names in more than one language, and also the SSR has they also record the historical names of places. So, for instance, a place can have a historical name in a Sámi language, but not a modern spelling. And if it doesn't have a modern spelling, we won't be using that one for the label, but we will use it for the alias for the place. Yeah, and Norwegian is also in the list. It's like basically those 6,482 places with Norwegian place names are all places where there's a Norwegian name in addition to the name in one of the Sámi languages, or Kven. And so the XML file from the SSR looks a bit like this. This is like a tiny excerpt of the file. And it's kind of funny because it's actually, the markup is in Norwegian. It's based on an old standard from, I think, 1987 or something, which the mapping authority made themselves. And it's working for them, so they've continued using it. But it means that, reusing the kind of stuff we do in this project for other countries might be a bit more difficult than just running the same scripts. And this is this is a small excerpt from one place. And you can see here, these are these fields denote the official status of the name. Like whether it's been approved by the government, or whether it's always been that name, or whether it's a proposed name or whatever. So this is something we need to use because we mainly want the ones with the names with some sort of official status. And here are fields for languages. The first one is the language of origin, and the second one is the language, the language of the name itself. In 99% of the cases, these two match. So there's, some names are, from Norwegian and have been lent into Sámi or vice versa, but most of them are separate. And we have this field is the actual name, which we're going to be using. And then at the bottom here we see the coordinates, which are of course very important when you're importing items about places. And the coordinates are in something called the EPSG 25833 format, which is different from the coordinates we're using in Wikidata, which is the WGS84 format. So we need to convert those coordinates before we upload them to Wikidata. And in order to do the reconciliation that I mentioned before, we decided to use OpenRefine instead of mix and match. OpenRefine reconciles the place names with Wikidata, and we chose it over mix and match because mix and match only has support for one label and one description, in addition to the identifier. But we need support for at least 6 labels, labels in 6 different languages. And we found that OpenRefine was more suitable to that, even though we would have preferred to use mix and match if we could, because mix and match is, well, it's easier. The learning curve for OpenRefine is pretty steep. So yeah, and one of our challenges is that the majority of the places that we're going to be adding are already in Wikidata, so there's a lot to reconcile. It would have been easier if the places weren't already in Wikidata, because then you're just adding new stuff. But since we're going to add to stuff that is already in Wikidata, it's important to be thorough when you're doing this kind of reconciliation work. And so the OpenRefine tool looks like this for us. We have the IDs from the SSR on the left, and then we have the labels for Norwegian, Northern Sámi, Southern Sámi, Lule Sámi, Skolt Sámi, and Kven, as well as the coordinates and an automatically generated description. And we're not going to use that description as it is here in Wikidata, but we're going to adapt it a bit. And as you can see here, on row number 2, you have a place which has a name in Norwegian and in Southern Sámi. And then you see some places that only have a name in Lule Sámi, or only in Southern Sámi, or only in Northern Sámi. And there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of overlap between places, between which languages places have names in. If you understand. Alright, so you may be asking yourself, why are there so many items to reconcile with in Wikidata from these 27,000 places in the SSR? And the reason for that is because in 2009 there was a guy who did basically what we're doing, but he did imported all the places from SSR into geonames. And as some of you might know, in I think 2014 or something, a Swedish guy started making a bot which automatically creates articles based on various different external databases. So it's not based on Wikidata, but on external databases. So, and one of these is geonames, and the bot creates articles automatically in the Cebuano Wikipedia, or Sebwiki, as some call it. And the thing is that, you know, once these places have articles in the Cebuano Wikipedia, they will also automatically have a Wikidata item. But those Wikidata items aren't necessarily, you know, they don't necessarily have a lot of data, because I mean, the Wikidata items import stuff from the Cebuano Wikipedia, which has imported from geonames, which has imported from the SSR. So there are a lot of potential points of failure here. And a lot of the data that is originally in the SSR hasn't made it all the way to Wikidata, of course. So what we are doing is basically supplementing all these items with the updated data from the SSR. So we won't be creating a lot of new items in this project, but there are a lot of existing items that will get, you know, more current and better sourced data. So I think that's a pretty big plus, and hopefully one day that will benefit the Cebuano Wikipedia as well via Wikidata-driven info boxes and stuff like that. But we will see. So the second phase of the project is the Lexeme part. Lexemes in Wikidata are basically items about words, whereas normal items are items about concepts. So a lexeme can have like information about all the conjugations and declensions of words, and the meanings and pronunciation and stuff like that. So that's very, very useful. And for we're doing the Lexemes for this project in cooperation with Tekno, which is a department at the University of Tromsø. It's basically the Sámi languages, Sámi language technical department. It literally means like language technology, but it's focused on Sámi languages. And one of our board members is working at that department, so that's very convenient for us. And having Lexemes, especially for Sámi languages, is crucial if you're going to if you want to use the names programmatically. And the reason for that is that the Sámi languages are quite complicated in their morphology. So, for instance, in Northern Sámi there are 6 cases. And here you see the table of with the declensions of the names for the Karasjok and Kautokeino, which they're called in Norwegian, Karasjokka and Kautokeino in Northern Sámi. And as you can see, it's not as simple as just adding a suffix or prefix or something, because the consonants in the last syllable, or at the border of the penultimate and the last syllable, they change. We have something called consonant gradation, and there are actually 3 grades of consonants, and they sort of it's hard to explain. But as you can see here, Karasjokka in nominative becomes Karasjoga in genitive and accusative, and Karasjokki in illative, and Karasjogas in locative, and Karasjogain in commitative. And so you see it's like an HK in the nominative, which turns into G. And similarly for Kautokeino, you have Kautokeino, 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 Govdagenoi, in illative, and Govdagenos in locative, and Govdagenoin in commutative. So, and you see there are like many different possibilities here. So it's having all this stuff in Lexemes makes it much easier to, if you're, say for instance, you want to automatically generate like an image caption or something. Like, okay, this is a dog pictured in Karasjok. And then you would use the locative form. And you can't really do that if you just have the Karasjoka form, which is what's in the item. So you need, to access all the other cases somehow. And the Lexemes are a very good way to do that. Which is why we want to put these names also as Lexemes in addition to items. And once we have put them as Lexemes, we can connect the Lexemes with the items and the items with the Lexemes. We're quite excited about this possibility. And yeah, that was all from me. Ologeto, tak, Gedemahagev, and thanks. Take care.
Now how do I turn this thing off?